Good morning. And there you all are. Wow. It's like I like to say every Sunday, where did you come from? When I looked about before, there were only 2 or 3. And now, look at you all. We're here again to co-create. And this particular Sunday, we're going to talk about and co-create around your thought is your life. And while some of this on the surface will seem very familiar to most of us, certainly in Unity, I wanted to go a little bit deeper with our friend Rev Butlerworth and discover the power within you. I found over years that I myself have gone to shortening that title of that book, and it's been Discover the Power. No, it's Discover the Power in You. And when you think about it, that's a significant difference than Discover the Power. And I'm not sure why that in you got dropped off by me, and certainly I'm not alone in that. But I think it needs to be brought back into balance. So today we're going to talk about discovering the power in us as it relates to our thinking. And one of the things that I really like about Rev Butlerworth is he uses phrases like, Jesus Christ is the Christopher Columbus of the soul. It's like, well, what exactly does that mean? And it means, according to the way I'm interpreting the material, that Jesus Christ was a revolutionary, was on the cutting edge, was on the front of his teachings. But his revolution was not in overthrowing governments or discovering new physical geographic material, or areas, I should say. It was in the discovery of areas in us that needed exploration by us and needed to be brought to the forefront of the world's consciousness at that time, that said, this is a new way of being. This is a new way of thinking. And we are going to revolutionize or Columbusize the world by understanding the power of our thinking. By understanding that how we think is literally how our lives exist. And when our life is our thinking, and you really kind of put that into perspective, whoa, what was I thinking? Where am I going with how I'm thinking? What exactly am I thinking? Now, I want to bring to your attention something that I think is important. Sometimes in Unity and New Thought, we get a little overbalanced on the thinking. It's thinking and feeling in alignment. Okay? They're very important that they be in alignment and they be thought of together. When I'm going to talk about thinking today as it relates to this particular chapter, I'm going to talk about the thinking and the stinking thinking that we have when our heart is not in alignment with how we're thinking. And you know when those times are. There are times of fear, of doubt, of anger, of a feeling of injustice. We are not in alignment with heart and thinking. And sometimes when we get our thinking out of alignment, and Jesus, this was one of his great teachings, we are out of harmony with life. We are jumpy. We are running around, not really progressing and focusing. We're like here and here and here, like a scattergun. And we wonder why things are not coming into fruition. Well, what is it that I'm doing wrong? Is a classic question we ask ourselves. What is it that I'm doing wrong? What is it that just is not happening in my life? And the suggestion here is, it's your thinking. It's how you view your life and how that perspective taints or colors your very soul, your very life, the way that we think. So I'm going to ask you today to, from your heart, be thinking about how it is that you respond to life. And the basis for what we're going to talk about today is this particular part of the Sermon on the Mount. Agree with thine adversary quickly, whilst thou art in the way with him, lest at any time the adversary deliver thee to the judge, and the judge deliver thee to the officer, and thou be cast into prison. Verily I say unto you, thou shalt by no means come out thence, till thou hast paid the uttermost farthing. What is the prison he's talking about? He's talking about the prison of our lives. What is he talking about when he says adversary? What is he talking about? This would be Jesus, not Eric Butterworth. Agreement. So there's two pretty important keys here. Adversary and the word agreement. When we talk about the word agreement, and what Jesus is teaching is, when you have an adversary, that adversary is yourself and the way you're thinking. No, you say. How about that person over there that said something nasty to me? That's my adversary. No, what Jesus is teaching is your adversary is your reaction, is the way you are thinking about what just happened. And the key here with this teaching is to dispose, to agree with your adversary quickly. Don't procrastinate. When we procrastinate with that kind of anger, doubt, fear, especially in the area of criticism. You see, we're all pretty good with the put up your dukes, the whole adversary enemy thing. Most of us will say, well, that's not me. I don't react that way. Well, you're talking here in what Gary Simmons sometimes calls the paper clips of life. When someone criticizes something that we do and we immediately go into, I call it low gear, we immediately start feeling small or less than. The thinking has gone south. We have not disposed of our adversary quickly. We have not said, whoops, got to make a correction here, got to get myself to at least in neutral. Do not want to go down that rabbit hole of destruction of thinking and having it be moved on me. You see, when we have destructive thinking, Butterworth goes as far to call it killing thoughts. They take pieces of our soul when we're negative, when we're in fear, or when we're angry, and they put us in a place where we're not in agreement with God. That's what he likes to say. We have gone to a place where we think the adversary is outside of us, when in fact, as we learned in Eye of the Storm, oh, enemy mine. The adversary comes with our own destructive thinking, and it comes when we do not understand that the adversary is truly the way we think about our lives, the way we think about our lives every single day, and how we think when we're in a situation that we think is destructive. What's destructive is the way that we are handling the situation. Now, some of you have immediately gone to, well, what if somebody held me up at the Safeway down the street? That's pretty destructive, and I don't feel good about that. You have a tool for handling that. You have the tool of not denying that something happened, but also utilizing the way you think about how you are going to handle that situation, how you are going to think about that situation. And that's a dramatic situation. We always like to go to the high drama situations to prove our point when we're not doing the homework on the small stuff. And by small stuff, I mean that daily interaction with humanity. And in my mind, that really isn't small stuff, because how you look at your life affects how you feel about your life. It affects whether you're suffering or not. And suffering can be something that we'll carry for years. It can be a judgment that was made about us, or criticism that was made about us that we have taken on. We have accepted the power of that. We have accepted somewhere along the line the truth of that. When if we would dispose of our adversary, meaning the way we think about what happened, we could lose that baggage and move through life in a much freer, happier way. It may sound to you like this is a pretty simple teaching. I don't think it's difficult to understand, except that with the word adversary, always try and remember that when we talk about adversary, we are talking about meaning your adverse thoughts or reactions to people or situations. And when we talk about the word agreement, we're not saying to agree with, we're saying dispose of. Get rid of the way you are thinking about your life if it is in conflict with alignment with God. So this is a very important teaching of Jesus, because it gives us a really hard and fast tool to move through life in a lot freer, transformative way. So try and remember when you use this technique, dispose of the negative thought quickly. Do not procrastinate. The longer you carry around feelings of less than, feelings of, that hurt my feelings. Do this. Say to yourself, you know, it did hurt my feelings, and I'm not going to deny that. But I have a choice. I can walk around for the next week, the next month, or the next 20 years with that hurt my feelings. Have at it. It is your choice. It's all of our choice. But you have a technique and a tool here that's very practical that says, I don't want to live my life that way. I will dispose of it. I will deal with it. It is my thinking about a situation. So right now I can see by the look on some people's faces, listen, let me tell you about a situation I've had in my life. You would not believe. No, I might not. I might not even be able to imagine it. It's not mine to imagine. It's not mine at all. It's yours to live with and deal with and be with. And the choice of how you do that is totally up to you. Think in terms of adversary also. When we talk about adversary, adversaries show up in all parts of our lives. They can show up in our health. They can show up in our finances. They can show up in our relationships. It doesn't actually have to be a Cold War to have an adversary. When you have an adversary in any part of your life, you have a tool and a chance to change your thinking about how you're going to handle that adversary, that whatever it is that's come up in your life. And it's totally up to us as to our choice of how we're going to handle that adversary. I'm going to read this to you from Rev Butler. When you find yourself getting resistant or hostile or envious, here's another one of those slippery slope words, or angry, when the seeds of conflict begin to reveal themselves in you, settle with them immediately by agreeing with God. Affirm your unity with infinite mind and the inexhaustible resources of love and peace. Okay, I hear you. I can hear it now because I can hear it in myself. What? When I'm in the heat of the moment, the last thing I'm thinking about is agreeing with God. No, you say, not the minister. That's what you're paid to do. You're supposed to agree with God, and you're supposed to do it sooner than the rest of us. Guess what? It's our humanity, but again, it's a choice. And when you're in the heat of the moment, when you're feeling really resistant, no matter what the subject, agree with God. Go to your divinity. Go to the peace of who you are. Go to the love of who you are. Now, some of you will say, listen, when I feel an injustice, I want to feel my injustice. Fine. Go and feel the injustice and feel the ulcer, feel the disruptive stomach, feel the headache, feel the lack of joy that all goes with that. That is your choice. You have chose to think about the situation in that way. You see, that's what Butterworth calls the luxury tax of staying in our suffering. You pay a tax, it's the luxury tax, and it shows up in a variety of manifestations, both in physical ills and financial woes, in relationships that are not working. And if that's a tax that you care to pay, fine, it's your tax. The teaching is you have a different way of being and looking at life. And the power is within you, and only you, to change that thinking. Very often when we're in a place of, I don't like to be here, we look around for advice and counsel outside ourselves. We look everywhere we can possibly think to look. We look in books, we go to workshops, we talk to friends, we talk to family. The teaching is you have the power within yourself to change how you're thinking. Should you not go and seek out these other resources? I'm not saying that. I'm saying, but go back home first. And back home is God. Agree with God. And the agreement with God is understanding, very simply, your divinity. And you have the power within yourself to come at the situation from a different, higher consciousness. Now here's the how-to. And I like this word that Butterworth coined, be pre-prayered. Be pre-prayered. When you're pre-prayered, it means that you have done the work. You have been in meditation. You have done your prayer work on a regular basis. I had someone say to me last week, I don't know how to pray, and you keep talking about praying. And I said to them, of course you know how to pray. That is within you, that prayer. What you don't want to look at is, you have to practice prayer. You have to pray. Now this person was very good and said thoughtfully, no, I understand I have to practice. I just don't know what I'm practicing. So you'll please examine your prayer lives. All of us need to do that over and over. A prayer practice is being pre-prayered for when we have these situations in life that we can say, go to God in the middle of the storm. Go to center. Charles Fillmore used to say, go to God, go to headquarters. Go to God, return to center. And the challenge is to do it and learn to do it in the moment. Now, one said this was an easy teaching. It's a clear teaching. It's crystal clear if you really look at it. And what the other part of this teaching is, if you don't, if you choose not to go to God, if you choose to sit in just exactly the way you're going with the way you look at it and your choice, then it's your prison that you have created. It's not the prison of someone outside yourself. It's not who done me wrong. It's how you deal with who done me wrong. And if you feel there's been an injustice done, and if there has been, own it, say it. But when you do that, lose it. Lose it, and that's part of our teaching. By losing it, I mean put it in its right context. Put it in the context of divinity, of God, of love, and of peace. I will say, and he says here, and this is pretty stern, all contagion, all poison begins in the mind. There is a moment when you can say no to every physical affliction that comes to you. Deal with the fear thought quickly. Affirm, I am a spiritual being and therefore I will not accept this thought of weakness. There's a difference here. You're accepting your own thought around what's happening to you. You're not accepting poor behavior. You're not accepting the criticism, but you are accepting the thought that brings you lower in a vibration that says, I feel real bad. I feel really bad. Take a look at how you're thinking when those times happen. And remember, those times happen in all aspects of our lives, in illness, in health. As soon as we begin to doubt or have a fear thought, quickly dispose of it, get rid of it, and give it away quickly. And to do that, you have to be pre-prayered, and you have to be centered in your own divinity, in God. Okay, and he sums it up with this. What he does say that I like also, and this is a worldview, and I'll just throw this in because I really wasn't going here, but he does say, the rules of all bargaining sessions or peace conferences should include the agreement that they will treat each other on the level of their innate divinity. Can you imagine? The UN is getting ready for the General Assembly meeting, I believe, next Monday. And he believes this should be posted someplace. I think the UN might like to have it. Some of you have emails ready. Have at it. The sentence is this: the rules of all bargaining sessions or peace conferences should include the agreement that they will treat each other on the level of their innate divinity. This agreement would lead to the opening premise that would be in essence a prayer, even if it were not prayerfully invoked. The thought that God is on both sides of the table. This would lead to an open-minded listening to one another's views. And so he closes with this, which I will read to you. Agree with thine adversary quickly, remembering that the adversary is not the person or situation that stands before you, but your reaction to or feeling about it. It has been said, things may happen around you and things may happen to you, but the only things that really count are the things that happen in you. We can't always control what happens to us, but we can control what we think about what happens. And what we are thinking is our life at any particular moment. Amen.